Good evening, everyone, and this is our first Bible study. This will go along with the class we're going to have at St. Luke's on this Thursday, that is 11 January 2018. So when you cannot make it out to St. Luke's in Manhattan, Kansas at 330 Sunset Boulevard, you can tune in here to catch these. And anybody else around the country, around the state, around the world, we are going to be here going through these, and these classes will be the second and fourth Thursday of every month. So here we go. Alright, we're going to start this out with a question. Who is the author of the book of Genesis? Moses. That's right. God groomed Moses for the task of recounting the full story of our family history. And where did Moses receive his education? How did he learn how to read and write? So now, if you kind of remember the story of Moses, they were enslaved by the Egyptians, and Moses' mother had put him in a basket when he was a baby and floated him down the river, and he floated by the palace there, and the queen, I believe it was, if I remember correctly, the queen had spotted him and took them, and the queen and the pharaoh had adopted him as his own. So that's where Moses received his education, because he was trained in combat and weapons. He was also taught how to learn and read, do math. He learned about geometry and building and all this other kind of stuff, just like people in Egypt of wealth and privilege, and of course the pharaohs. So that's where he got his education. All right. So the book of Genesis is the beginning of everything, including our family tree. The account that Moses writes about introduces us to the true God of love and infinite power, who created the whole universe as a home for his human creation. Alright, now I'm going to read straight from the Bible, and the Bible that I'm using is it's a King James version, and I'm going to read from Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 through 31. So, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good, and the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And God said, Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, Let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beasts of the earth after his kind. And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So, what does it mean when Moses says in chapter 2, verse 2, And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all of his work? Alright, so we're going to take that, and we're going to look at what Luther had to say from Martin Luther's basic exegetical writings. Alright, so Moses says that the Lord rested on the seventh day from the work which he had done. That is, that he ceased to work on the seventh day. On the other hand, Christ says in John 5:17, My Father works until now, and I work. Moreover, what Hebrew verse 3:18 and 4:3 state concerning the rest pertains to this passage. If they shall enter, not indeed into the land of promise, but into my rest. We simply answer this way. The solution is given by the text itself when it says, The heaven and the earth were finished. The Sabbath or the Sabbath rest denotes that God ceased in such a way that he did not create another heaven and another earth. It does not denote that God gave up preserving and governing the heaven and the earth which had already been created. For in the preceding chapter, Moses very plainly informs us about the manner of the creation when he says that God had created all things through the Word. Let the sea bring forth fish, the earth, herbs, beasts, etc. Likewise, grow, fill the earth and the sea. These words are in force until today, and for this reason we see increase without end. Therefore, if the world were in existence for an infinite number of years, the effectiveness of these words would not pass away, but there would be continuous increase through the power of that word, or to express myself so, of the original endowment. Thus the solution is easy. God rested from his work, that is, he was satisfied with the heaven and earth which had been created by the Word. He did not create a new heaven, a new earth, new stars, new trees, and yet God works till now. If indeed he has not abandoned the world, which was once established, but governs and preserves it through the effectiveness of his word. He has therefore ceased to establish, but he has not ceased to govern. In Adam, the human race had its beginning in the earth. The animal race, to use this expression, had its beginning through the word, and in the sea that of the fish and of the birds had its beginning, but in Adam and in the first little beast or animals they did not reach their end. Until today there abides the word which was pronounced over the human race, grow and multiply. There abides the word, let the sea bring forth fish, and birds of the heaven. Almighty therefore is the power and effectiveness of the word which thus preserves and governs the entire creation. Thus Moses has clearly established that the Word was in the beginning, but because all things grow, multiply, and are preserved and governed until now in the same manner as from the beginning of the world, it obviously follows that the Word is still continues in force and is not dead. Therefore, Moses' statement, God rested from his work, is not to be understood of that course of events which involves their preservation and government, but simply of the beginning, namely, that God had ceased creating classes, as they say in common speech, and new species or new creations. If you look at my person, I am something new, because 60 years ago I was nothing. Such is the judgment of the world, but God's judgment is different, for in God's sight it was begotten and multiplied immediately when the world began, because this word, and God said, let us make man, created me too. Whatever God wanted to create, that he created. Then when he spoke, not everything has come into view at once. Similarly, an arrow or a ball which is shot from a cannon is sent to its target in a single moment, as it were, and nevertheless it is shot through a definite space. So God, through his word, extends his activity from the beginning of the world to its end. For with God there is nothing that is earlier or later, swifter or slower, but in his eyes all things are present things, for he is simply outside the scope of time. So, in chapter 2, verse 2, what does it mean when Moses says, and God blesses the seventh day and sanctified it, because that and in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made? What is sanctified? Alright, so to figure out what is sanctified, we're going to also turn to Martin Luther. And Luther says that in Matthew 12, Christ says that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. But Moses says nothing here about man. He does not say in so many words that the Sabbath was commanded to man. He says that God blessed the Sabbath and that he sanctified it for himself. Moreover, he did not do this to any other creature. He did not sanctify for himself the heaven, the earth, or any other creature, but the seventh day he did sanctify for himself. This has the special purpose of making us understand that the seventh day particular should be devoted to divine worship. For holy is that which has been set aside for God, and has been removed from all secular uses. Hence, to sanctify means to set aside for sacred purposes or for the worship of God. In this manner, Moses rather frequently employs the expression also of sacred vessels. It follows, therefore, from this passage that if Adam had remained in the state of innocence, he nevertheless would have held the seventh day sacred. That is, on this day he would have given his descendants instructions about the will and worship of God. He would have praised God, he would have given thanks, he would have sacrificed, etc. On the other days he would have tilled his fields and tended his cattle. Indeed, even after the fall he kept his seventh day sacred. That is, on this day he instructed his family, of which the sacrifices of his sons Cain and Abel give the proof. Therefore, from the beginning of the world, the Sabbath